My name is Christian. I am here to talk a little bit about the security and ethical concerns in information systems. I'm doing this for a course that I'm taking called Management of the Information Technology Function. So first I will divulge into the security issues, and then I will go into a little bit about the ethical concerns in these information systems. So, first of all, when I'm talking about security, I'm talking about the security of electronic information, things that can be put onto the internet, information that's transmitted through the internet that can potentially be taken by either hackers or crackers. The distinguishing factor between the two is hackers basically access into private systems just to prove something or to show vulnerabilities in a business's firewalls, whereas crackers do this to induce some kind of harm on either an individual or a business. And crackers are what most people and businesses are worried about. Businesses are worried in the form of their information technology, their intellectual property being stolen, and individuals obviously are worried about theft of identity. The ways that organizations try to protect themselves from this are simply by instilling some kind of firewalls or passcodes and protections to protect themselves from access from outside intruders as well as inside intruders. Insiders often are a common cause of C crimes being computer crimes, and these insiders consist of either employees or past employees that previously had access to information and shouldn't have access anymore but still do. This often occurs with disgruntled employees who try to harm the business after being fired or wrongfully fired or things of that nature. Also, business partners such as a company that one company may work with, such as suppliers. This can often occur. And the way that a business will assess the value of an asset, of an intellectual asset, is they will basically do a single loss expectancy, which is when they determine an estimated cost of what they would have to spend should a certain information be lost. And they do this by using historical data as well as industry statistics. And then what they do to get the amount of money that they're willing to spend to protect themselves from this loss is they multiply the single loss expectancy times the annual occurrence rate. How often does this loss occur? And this multiplication will give them the amount of money in total per year that they would be willing to spend to protect themselves from an information theft. So obviously, if a certain asset, should it be stolen, could cost them $20,000, they're not going to spend $100,000 to protect themselves from this theft. Purely a way of doing business that protects a company's liquidity. Information theft is more common than people think, basically because information theft can occur without the person even knowing that it has occurred, because oftentimes this information, there's a copy that's left behind. Also, a lot of businesses neglect to state that they've been subject to this kind of theft because of the fact that it promotes a bad publicity, and there's legal liabilities that go along with this. Because computer theft has had such a impact on so many people in the past, there's been various acts that have basically been put in place and that have affected the way certain management of information security has to be upheld. For example, the SOX Act which is the Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002, which basically was put in place to prevent fraud in certain companies, in companies. Basically states that businesses must keep records of emails and instant messages for the past 5 years, and this has yielded a growth in electronic record management. Basically, the way that putting computer information, putting corporate information officers responsible for the accuracy and security and reliability of information systems that are necessary to report financial data. Also, information systems have made it more possible for financial information of individuals, as well as medical information for individuals to be accessed and transmitted between the necessary people who need to see this kind of information. But because some of this information can be used for harm to certain individuals, they've put in place different acts, one being the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act, which protects individuals' medical information, making it private to only that person and the health institution that needs to see it, as well as HIPAA, which basically puts the medical information, like I said before, between the private institution that needs to see it and the person. And the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act, it serves to protect the financial information of individuals. Then there's also the Patriot Act, which basically allows the government to have surveillance of and records of financial records of businesses as well as banks, and those kinds of institutions. And it also allows for citizens to use the services of law enforcement to catch hackers. And it also required for banks to file reports called currency transaction reports for any cash transactions greater than $10,000. Because information theft has been more readily accessible to businesses, more businesses are starting to instill policies regarding security of intellectual assets, and it's almost a necessity nowadays to have an information security policy in your business, especially if you are a publicly traded company. According to the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, you cannot be a publicly traded company in the United States without having policies that protect your information securities. Now, aside from security issues, ethical issues do come into play when it comes to information technology. Managers are responsible for information technology, and they're also responsible for the ethical implications of it. With every information technology decision, it can have effect on a broad range of people. These people might contain customers, stockholders, managers, workers, communities, suppliers, and even the general public. Pretty much anyone who's a stakeholder in the business, an information technology decision will affect. So because these information technology decisions have such a great effect on such a broad range of people, there's obviously going to be some ethical implications to be involved. So one example is an organization might keep a customer's information, and that could be towards the benefit of the organization as well as the benefit of the customer, making transaction more readily, more easily attainable. But what if there's a lack of protection for company information in that company? This exposes a customer to information theft, could potentially harm the customer in the future. So that's just one example of an ethical concern a business might have. So in considering ethical issues, management will often look at the stakeholders that are affected by it, and if one or more stakeholders might be adversely affected, then an ethical problem may be exposed. In all ethical decisions, the consideration of fundamental principles is more beneficial as opposed to just blindly following a detailed regulation of protecting people from ethical problems. This is why something, if it's not illegal, does not mean it's always ethical. Whereas usually, if something is ethical, then it's usually legal. That would make more sense. But since information technology affects or impacts people and so many different people's lives, there will always be ethical issues that arise, especially since the information technology sector is so rapidly changing. It's hard for laws to be written to keep up with it. Therefore, this causes there to be an even higher standard of integrity amongst leaders and creators in this technology sector, so as not to take advantage of or exploit people who lack the information in this sector, and basically protect individuals as well as businesses and companies. And that is the importance of security and ethical concerns in information technology systems.